I think you come to the Belgian to win it. Wabash always fight.
Hello and welcome to the Don Morel Show, your chance to hear the thoughts and comments of the head football coach of the Little Giant program. And Coach, we get a chance to chat after a record-breaking week for the Little Giants, a 59-23 victory over Hiram. The most important thing, a win for Wabash that continues to set the table for the possibility of a conference title. But the individual number that we talk about that was just so impressive, 7 touchdown passes by Liam Thompson last Saturday. That breaks the Wabash single game record. It actually tied the North Coast Athletic Conference record. What an outstanding performance that was on Saturday by Liam and by the offense in general.
A collective effort. Certainly the offensive line protects him. We've got a number of fine wide receivers that can catch the ball, and running backs. Donovan Snyder caught one. And that was, you have no idea that's occurring, and then somebody will grab you after the game and say, hey, you broke our record. Our deal was we needed to beat Hiram to stay in contention to win the conference. Now we need to beat Kenyon.
I had actually spread that word to one of your assistants just in case at halftime, just to make sure if you didn't know that he had 6 at halftime, that somebody down there knew just in case. But yeah, it was all about beating Hiram, and that was a Hiram team that had an excellent running back in Malcolm Rogers, the top running back in the conference. You held him under 100 yards defensively, kept him out of the end zone, which he had 3 touchdowns in each of his previous 2 games prior to Saturday's game. The defense just had a tremendous game against a strong running attack by Hiram.
We did. The defense, I believe, has improved weekly, and we did a really good job. I think in the first half, we had to figure a few things out. Did a great job in the second half.
You also got some good special teams play. Brigham Anderson hit a couple of field goals for you. Good day of punting for Blake White. So really, if you want everything to really start coming together at one time, a couple of weeks away from a really big game and a chance to perhaps continue playing beyond week 11 of the season is a really good time to put things together.
It is. The other guy I will mention, only because I've screamed at him 10,000 times, is Brody Rucker kicking off. Did a really good job.
Has done a tremendous job, putting the ball in the end zone, putting the ball deep, if not into the end zone, and really setting up a deep field for the opponent. So he really has been a good weapon for you. We talked about the defense. One of the guys who just continues to play hard week after week is Gavin Rupert. Gavin was the North Coast Athletic Conference Football Defensive Athlete of the Week. We had a chance to sit down and chat a little bit. Let's hear from Gavin Rupert, who won that award. Our student athlete segment of the Don Morel Show this week features the North Coast Athletic Conference Football Defensive Athlete of the Week, Gavin Rupert. And Gavin, first of all, congratulations on a tremendous season. You were named the NCAC Defensive Football Athlete of the Week after a tremendous performance in the Little Giants' victory over Hiram. 16 tackles in that ball game. You had 7 solo stops, ended up with a sack of 3 yards. How have you gotten off to such a great start in your first season here at Wabash?
To get off to a great start this season, I couldn't have done it mostly without the upperclassmen. They really embraced having me getting playing time as a freshman, and specifically Cade Lansdale as a captain is really tried to make sure I feel comfortable being on the field with everyone. And coming in against North Central, it's kind of a speed shock, if that's your first game, you're kind of seeing a speed you've never seen before. But I get more comfortable each game, and all the upperclassmen really have been helpful, and I couldn't have done it with some linebackers like Joe Rios and Cooper Jarvis. They've been great to me, so it's nice to, put some counting stats up, but it's also nice to get wins, so it's been nice to have a bunch of wins to start off my career.
Well, you kind of lead me perfectly into my second question. with some of the veterans around you. You mentioned, Cade Lansdell, you've got Stephen Thomas up front. Owen Volk is having a great season as well. Jamari Washington really, after having some injuries at the start of the year, has jumped right back in and has really made his presence known. Having those guys up front and then having, talented linebackers around you like Joe Rios, as you mentioned, how has that helped open some things up for you to be able to make some plays?
I'm not conference player or conference athlete of the week without those guys up front. They do a fantastic job every week. And, they don't always get all the glory because they're sticking on double teams and the big old boys are blocking them while I get to make all the tackles. But without them, a lot of things don't open up for me and Joe or whoever's in at the other linebacker position. So those guys up front, they do a fantastic job, and they're all, even better, all better people, and we definitely have a good dynamic going. So.
How's the adjustment from high school football to college football gone for you? You mentioned, getting your first start against North Central and seeing, the national runner-up from last year, the national champion from a few years ago, and just jumping on the field to face that type of talent, was a little bit of a shock. But, you see a lot of talent every week in the North Coast Athletic Conference. How was that adjustment from high school to college?
Yeah, it's definitely an adjustment, but I think once you're comfortable, you can really start to play fast and play with your instincts, which is something that I tend to rely on, is just playing more instinctually and playing fast and not thinking so much, because when you think you stink is what an old coach once told me. So, but yeah, getting that first start against North Central, you come in and it's your first college action, and it's a little bit different speed than anything you see in high school. Every best player that you played in high school, the whole team's full of them, and that's not just North Central. That's every week. You're facing the best guy. That he was the best guy on his high school team. So you have to make an adjustment, and you have to prepare harder, and you have to play faster, and if you do that, you'll be just fine. But it definitely is an adjustment.
You're going to see a very talented offense this week when Wabash plays its final regular season home game against Kenyon College. They have two outstanding receivers, a very good quarterback. How important is it going to be to try and keep that offense under control to give your offense, with Liam Thompson, your great receivers, your great running backs, and a good offensive line, to give them the opportunity to do what they do? How important is it to really have a great game against another great offense like Kenyon's?
Yeah, I think, and you'll hear Coach Morel say it throughout practice this week, that Kenyon is a better team than their record shows. Their offense is very dynamic. They have great receivers. Number 22 is averaging over 100 yards a game, so we got a game plan for him, and a couple other dynamic athletes. They got a good freshman running back and a senior quarterback who's really stepped up this year and thrown some really nice games. So it's very important that we game plan and prepare like any other week as hard as we can, and make sure we keep this offense a little lower than what they've been averaging lately, so we can get our offense the ball. And like you said, Liam Thompson is he's going to do some magic and put up some points just like every other week. So I think if we prepare as hard as we can and trust each other, then we'll have a just fine week taking care of Kenyon.
Gavin, let's tell us a little bit about yourself. What are you planning on majoring in at Wabash, and what are your early plans for after graduation from college a few years from now?
Yeah, so I got a few years, but currently I plan on majoring biology and minoring in chemistry on a pre-med track. And after Wabash, I want to attend. Currently, I want to attend medical school, but then maybe nursing school. So we'll see where that takes me, and then hopefully work in sports medicine one day.
Fantastic. That's Gavin Rupert. He is the North Coast Athletic Conference Football Defensive Athlete of the Week, leading tackler on the Little Giants, second in the conference in tackles, 27th in the nation in tackles. And thank you, Gavin, for joining us today. Now back to the Don Morel Show. Great to hear from Gavin Rupert, and he is just having a tremendous year. We mentioned there at the end, second in the conference in total tackles, 27th in the nation, and he didn't play week one. I mean, this is a guy who's really jumped in and helped your defense.
He has. We had some injury. We felt like he was a really good high school player, and now we have the luxury of, the next few games and the next 3 years with him playing for the Little Giants.
A big game coming up this weekend now. You have, as we mentioned, a very talented Kenyon College Owls team coming in, and there will not be a dearth of talented wide receivers on the field. 4 of the top 5 receivers in the conference will be here at Little Giant Stadium on Saturday. Zachary Kim, Finn Murray from Kenyon are 1 and 2 in the conference. Derek Allen Jr., Penn Stoller are number 4 and number 5. And we certainly, again, know what Liam can do. He's the number 1 passer in Division III in passing yards, in total offense. He's among the leaders in touchdown passes. On paper, it looks like the type of game that it's going to be the old Don Coryell, we'll outscore you by 1. But both teams have the capability of keeping some offenses in check as well. What do you see as the big keys on Saturday with that type of talent coming in?
The Kenyon football has done a great job of getting their kids to play at a high level and compete even in games that they're losing. They've had 2 miraculous comebacks. One they won, one they lost. They are really good. I think on both sides of the ball, football team. They don't have a giant squad size, and at times that can affect them. But they're good, and both the wide receivers are extremely talented. I think we're spoiled here getting to watch our guys play. The Kenyon wides are very talented and really fast.
Last week against Hiram, you were able to really jump out to an early lead. Is that something, again, that's going to be important to do with the type of offense like Kenyon is get them down and make them have to feel like they have to score every time they touch the football?
I think it was more of a one-off where we hit Hiram with a couple plays they weren't expecting. Kenyon's very well coached, and I think they're going to be ready for everything. And then we got lucky on a couple plays too. That's the way it goes. And we jumped out to a big lead. We weren't expecting that at all. But no, I think this is going to be a hard-fought football game. We're not good enough just to show up and win. If we do that, Kenyon can beat us. So we need to play a great game in all 3 phases.
That game, of course, kicks off at 1 o'clock. Tickets are available for the game on Saturday. If you go to sports.wabash.edu/tickets, you'll find more information there. If you can't make it to Little Giant Stadium in person, the game will, of course, be broadcast on the internet at sports.wabash.edu/WCVN. It's also available on the Wabash College Video Network apps on Apple TV, Roku, Amazon Fire devices. You can also get it on your mobile device on the Apple Store and Google Play. Jim Amadon will have that call for you on Saturday, beginning at about 12:30 with this Don Morel pregame show, and then Jim will have the call with the kickoff starting at 1 o'clock. Coach, thank you so much for visiting with us again this week, and best of luck on Saturday.
Thank you.
You've been watching the Don Morel Show, your chance to hear the thoughts and comments of the head football coach of the Little Giant program. We'll talk to you next week.
I think you come to the Belgium to win it. Wabash always fight.